Hi, it's time for another verb of the day. Today's verb is pamper, and this verb was suggested by the viewer Luis. Luis, thanks for sharing another great idea with us. Now, let's take a moment and review some of the definitions or the ways that we can use this verb. The first way you may encounter the verb pamper means to indulge with every attention, comfort, and kindness. A word that is a little similar here might be to spoil, right? So you are really going above and beyond, not just being merely nice or friendly, but really taking it up kind of to another level. Another and maybe less common way to encounter this verb pamper can mean to gratify or to humor someone. So maybe they're doing something that would ordinarily not be that interesting or might even be a bit bothersome, but you're kind of going along with it and sort of playing nice. For now, you should know that pamper is a regular verb. If you want to make the progressive form of this verb, all you need to do is add ing, and that forms pampering. The past tense and the participle form of our verb can be made by adding ed. Our base verb, pamper, ends in a voiced sound, that or er sound. This means when I add the ed ending, I'm just going to make a d sound. I'm not going to add an extra syllable when I say it. So the past tense and the participle form of the verb should sound like this: pampered, pampered. Okay. Now, I don't have any phrasal verbs for us to study, so we'll move on to a little verb tense practice. Today, I thought it might be good for us to review the imperative and the present perfect progressive. Let's start with the imperative. The imperative is rather unique in English because we are telling someone to do, or in the negative, not do a particular action. The imperative does not have a stated subject. If you're a regular watcher of these videos, you're probably accustomed to me talking about what form of the verb we need with subjects that are I, you, we, they, he, she, or it. But we're not going to use any of those words here in the imperative. That is because the subject is understood. So we have this understanding that our subject is either you singular if I'm speaking to or writing to one person, or it's you plural if I happen to be speaking to two or more people. So in the affirmative, you can just begin a sentence with that base verb, right? And you're telling someone to do that particular action. Now, sometimes that can feel a little rude, maybe a little bossy to tell someone you do this particular action. So you could soften things or make it a bit more polite by adding the word please. And you could do that by adding please at the beginning or please at the end of a sentence. So an example of a command here might be, please pamper these guests. So maybe this is the owner of a hotel talking to a staff member, and they know this is kind of a very important group of people. We want to treat them well, right? We want to make sure they have everything they need, give them all the attention they desire so that they will have a pleasant experience. Now, if you want to make a negative imperative sentence, what you're going to do is start with do not and then the base verb. An example of this might be, don't pamper your teenagers. They should learn to take care of themselves. So here, what I'm saying, don't do everything for them. Don't cook, don't clean, don't do their homework, right? We want them to learn some responsibility, right? So we're not going to go kind of over the top with that kindness. So you'll notice here, we don't have any yes or no questions. Again, the imperative is not about asking someone to do something. You're telling them to do something. Now let's move on and talk a little bit about the present perfect progressive. We use this verb tense to talk about actions that started in the past, that continue into the present, and they may even continue into the future. Sometimes This verb tense gets called the present perfect continuous, and if your teacher does that or a book you're studying with does that, that's great. There's no problem with it. It means exactly the same thing. With this verb tense, generally the focus is on how long the action has been ongoing. And the reason I like saying present perfect progressive with my students is I encourage them to notice the 3 P's in the name of the verb tense, and I try and make the connection that you will need 3 parts to make your verb. And this is a verb tense where we need to pay attention to those subjects. Okay? So if your subject is I, you, we, or they, in the affirmative, you'll use have, then the participle been, B-E-E-N, and then the ing form of the verb. But if your subject is he, she, or it, use has been, and then the ing form of the verb. Let's look at an example sentence. For the past 8 years, the salon owner has been pampering the residents of Norfolk. So that ending, those 2 ending words there, just part of the name of a particular city or town. But again, you'll notice the beginning of the sentence starts with that length of time. So we know how long this action has been ongoing or has been continuing. So here, maybe this is someone who cuts hairs, gives massages, maybe takes care of people's nails, other things related kind of to their health and beauty, and so kind of giving them that extra attention so they feel really good about how they look. Now, if you want to make a negative present perfect progressive sentence, again, pay attention to your subject, because your subject is going to influence whether you use have or has. Then use not before the participle been and then the ing form of the verb. Here's another example. He hasn't been pampering his plants throughout the winter. Okay? So here, it's just kind of like I'm letting nature do whatever it will do to these particular plants. I'm not going to provide extra water in case it hasn't been raining, or I'm not going to try and protect them from the cold, right? So not giving that extra attention. Finally, let's look at making a yes or no question in the present perfect progressive. To do this, start with have or has, whichever form matches your subject. That subject should come next. Then use the participle been and the ing form of the verb. Here's one more example. Have the bride and groom been pampering themselves prior to their big day? So again, doing things that might make them kind of feel their best, giving extra attention to how they might look on their wedding day. Now let's move on and talk a little bit about some words related to our verb pamper. And the first word we'll discuss is a noun. We're going to add another ER to the base verb there, and we'll create the word pamperer, and this refers to someone who treats others, again, with this excessive care and attention or indulgence. So really going above what one might think is normal or necessary. So an example of this. These pet pamperers opened their own grooming business 2 years ago. Okay? So this particular phrase is kind of maybe a funny or fun way to refer to someone who grooms, might be cats and dogs and other pets, but again, giving them a lot of care and attention, treating them well. One more word for us today. It's the noun pamperedness. This is the state of being treated with excessive care and attention. An example of this. You should slow down and reward yourself with some pamperedness, right? So doing things that make you feel very cared for and kind of well. Thanks again to Louise for suggesting today's verb. I thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a great day.